LaVar Arrington, my compadre from the NFL Network, and you can catch him on the NFL Network and its whole every Sunday. You can see LaVar on NFL Network's NFL Game Day Live starting at 1 p.m. Eastern, providing in-progress highlights and analysis, as well as NFL Network's NFL HQ that airs Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern and re-airs at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can also follow him on Twitter at LaVar Arrington here on the program. All right, LaVar, the floor is yours, sir. What'd you think of the Redskins last night?
What did I think of the Redskins? I think that they played very well on defense. They went away from the run. They depended on the pass, and they've played poorly on special teams as usual. So those were my three takeaways.
Well, I mean, depending on the pass and Kirk Cousins' arm, do you think that was something that was part of the game plan, or they just lost their way because of the way the Giants played in the first quarter from the run game?
You know what, Rich? I don't think that there should be any excuse as to why you go with Matt Jones and not with Alfred Morris to begin with. And then once you think about not using Alfred or Matt Jones or the run as the game progressed, to say that you allowed the New York Giants to dictate how you called the game when the game was within reach because of how well your defense was playing, I don't subscribe to that. If I was walking down an aisle, that's not a product I would take off of the shelf and take it to the checkout and have them put it in a bag. Not buying that one.
Yeah, Alfred Morris, 6 carries, fewest carries in 51 career games for the Butler. Why is he not being featured, do you think, LaVar?
Yeah, I think it's currency effect. They got a blast out of Matt Jones the week before. He had a monster game. I can understand you wanting to get him more involved, but just because he had a big game doesn't mean you now start him and then really kind of go away from Alfred Morris. There's really no reason, no exact type of formula, I would say, that would lend to going away from Alfred Morris, even if you have a talented back like Matt Jones. I think it was a horrible mistake on their end, and they paid for it.
LaVar Arrington joining me here on the program. Which Redskins quarterback do you believe gives the team the best chance to win, LaVar?
Oh, I've been saying Colt McCoy from the start, but now here's what I'll say. Here's the caveat here. When it was Colt McCoy, Rich, it was more so because you took Robert Griffin III out, and then once you took Robert Griffin III out, Kirk Cousins didn't play well, and so you were actually able to put Colt McCoy into the game. Now that they benched RG3 before the season even gets underway, and I'm assuming because Robert Griffin III is still on the roster that this was something of we'll say a collective agreement between upper management from ownership on down, then now you have to say that everything is connected to Kirk Cousins. So even if Kirk Cousins isn't able to get the job done, I would assume Jay Gruden is going to ride that situation all the way either to a winning season or a season acceptable enough for him to come back next year, or losing his job. You know, if RG3 had started and then you had to pull him and then you put Kirk Cousins in, I say Colt McCoy is your best chance of winning. I really believe that. I've said it before the season got underway. I continue to believe that now, that he's your best option.
Well, isn't the biggest problem, LaVar, that the team collectively, coach, general manager, owner, what have you, even with the new general manager, Scott McCloughan, thought that the status quo for the quarterback roster was sustainable for another season after what we saw last year? Isn't that the ultimate problem, LaVar?
Maybe that's what it appears to be. I'm not exactly sure what they may or may not have been thinking. I would assume that because of everything that went into getting Robert Griffin III and what people believe behind those closed doors, is that they were going to get year one Robert Griffin III. that's what I truly believe. Because if that were not the case, I would assume they would have either did something in the draft, they would have traded for somebody. But I guess it comes back to your original point, is that they felt as though they were confident and comfortable enough with the group of guys. They re-signed Colt McCoy. They didn't let go of Kirk Cousins. They kept the current quarterback group in place from a year ago. So you would have to assume they had confidence in the guys that they had at that position.
Yeah, but the year one Robert Griffin III, LaVar Arrington, was in a completely different offense that, interestingly enough, this was a head-scratcher from Phil Simms last night, saying when asked to assess this whole thing, Phil said, well, RG3 was running an offense that's not run in the NFL anymore, so he had to learn a new offense. Marcus Mariota's running that offense in Tennessee. I do believe Chip Kelly's running a version of it in Philadelphia. It's just that they didn't want to run that offense in Washington anymore. And now he is stuck in a spot where nobody has any confidence in him, and his confidence probably within his own temples is at zero. So why not just release this guy, LaVar?
Yeah, I think that's the $1 million question. And again, I think I'm not going to say any names. I won't pinpoint anything because I'm not 100% sure. But I think there's a connection there with Robert Griffin III. I think that what people went through to bring him in, that maybe they're just not ready to let him go yet, or let go of what could have been with Robert Griffin III. It's almost like his time in Washington is on life support. And it's like looking at the family members and saying, look, do you want to cut it off? I mean, this machine is the sole purpose of why the breathing is taking place. Do you want to shut this off? And I think that there's somebody there that's a decision maker that isn't quite ready to pull the plug on that situation. But you're absolutely right. The fact that Robert Griffin III is still in that locker room will be the detriment of this team this season, because every single time a quarterback, whether it's Kirk, whether it's Colt McCoy, every single time something doesn't go right, and those times will happen because they happen for everybody. I mean, you look at Andrew Luck, he's going through a rough spot right now. But what you don't have that you do have taking place in Washington, D.C., that doesn't take place in a lot of other places, is you have a quarterback controversy. They're trying to say there's no quarterback controversy. Jay Gruden's trying to say there's no quarterback controversy. There is a quarterback controversy because every single time a quarterback that's playing doesn't do what people are looking for that quarterback to do, if there's not a win that takes place, you're going to have to answer that question every single time you come into a press conference as to what do you do about this quarterback situation, because he's still in the locker room. I have no idea why they wouldn't have got rid of him if they turned the team over to Kirk Cousins before the season even got underway. Makes absolutely not an ounce of sense. And another thing to add to that, Rich, what I thought was very peculiar was why is RG3 traveling with the team? Inactives don't go on trips with the teams. Are you like, what is the motivation with that? Like, you're not the leader of the team anymore. You clearly weren't as big of a leader as you thought you were when you were the starter of the team. What are you on the sideline for, parading around? To me, the more you see him, if I'm McGloin, if I'm Jay Gruden, you stay your tail at home. We're traveling away. This isn't a home game. We went on the road. The first thing I saw when I did the show this morning on NFL HQ, as you mentioned, you guys can check that out on weekdays. The first thing I saw, Rich, was a highlight of Robert Griffin III in his street clothes walking to the field. Now, to a common onlooker, they're sitting there saying, oh, maybe there's a possibility if something doesn't go right, you send RG3 into the locker room, RG3 puts his uniform on, his cape comes out, he comes onto the field, and boom, he starts slinging the ball all over the place, and the Washington Redskins go to victory, right? That's how a lot of people look at these things if they don't understand the details of how inactives work and different things like that. I don't understand why they're handling a lot of the things the way that they're handling them.
So what should RG3 do? Say, if I'm inactive, I shouldn't come? Or is somebody inviting him? I mean, what should he do? He's in a tough spot. I mean, what can he do?
Other inactives have done throughout the course of the history of the National Football League, which is when there's an away game, you enjoy your weekend. Hey, enjoy your wife and your kids and your family and the people that love you. Go watch the game from somewhere else or actually at the comfort and confines of your own home. Call up Rich Eisen and say, hey, Rich, let's check out the game while we're on the phone, or let's Skype or something like that and talk about what's going on. But what I wouldn't be doing is I would not want to be an object of focus. I would not want to be a person of interest in situations where I can actually prevent that from taking place. He's a moth to the flame in the situation. And I would have that conversation with the coaches, because if it's him, that's a conversation I have with him as a coach. If it's the coaches, that's a conversation I have with him as a player. I don't want to be a part of the distractions, the confusion, any of those things. I don't want to have any parts of it. So if I'm not active for the game, if it's an away game, I'm not going. I think it should be as simple as that.
LaVar, I got Law here who wants to ask you a Penn State question before you're out the door.
Hey, LaVar,
Sure.
a lot of football left in the season, but you left Penn State after your junior year, second pick overall in the draft. What would your advice be for Hackenberg after a great freshman year, a little bit of a rough sophomore year, and a rough start to his junior campaign? Maybe come out with some friction with the coach, or stick it out for a senior year?
Well, it's a tough question to ask, because I think when you look at Christian's skill set, I think everybody knows, because they saw him with a NFL-style coach and an NFL caliber offense, that he's an NFL quarterback. So when you see that, and that's no knock on Franklin, but he doesn't run the same style of offense that Bill O'Brien ran. And so when you look at the success that Hackenberg had with O'Brien, one would lead you to believe that it might not get too much better in that style of offense for a pocket passing quarterback like Christian Hackenberg. So I think he has to make that decision. If he's graduated by the time, that decision needs to be made, because he is a true junior. He's not a redshirt junior, so he's a true junior. For me, my situation was totally different. I was losing every single piece of the puzzle as to why I was able to make plays. Brandon was leaving, Short was leaving, Courtney Brown was leaving, David Macklin. All the guys around me where I was around were leaving. So my stock was high. It had no other place to go but down. I almost look at Hack's situation. His stock may continue to go down if he stayed. It's a hit or miss with that situation. So he's got to make that decision based off of him. But I know he's going to be a solid pro quarterback. It's just a shame that now as his career in college has kind of taken like a U-turn almost, so to speak. It's really not up to the standard of what it should be for somebody that was being projected to be a high draft pick in the upcoming draft.
LaVar, can I get you in studio next time?
Yeah, absolutely,
I'd
man.
love it.
I be having baby duties, Rich.
Okay, it's all good. No, I understand.
Had a baby. I don't just sit at home at night. I go home. I watch TV. I have a little bit of a drink in my cup with one piece of rock ice, and I have a good time.
We have daycare. Man. We have daycare at the Rich Eisen Show. Don't worry, we'll take care of it.
Okay. Well, then you know what? We'll figure it out.
You got it. Thanks, LaVar. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Rich.
You got it. That's LaVar Arrington of NFL HQ. 8 a.m. Eastern Time every Monday through Friday, and then NFL Game Day Live starting at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sundays, providing in-progress highlights and analysis on NFL Network. I do believe the analogy that he used is somebody has to euthanize RG3 in Washington, D.C. I heard that. That is how dire things are there.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.